I am Grigori Rasputin, the man who defied death, controlled an empire, and brought Russia to its knees. They called me a healer, a sinner, a saint, and a demon. But the truth is darker than you could ever imagine. I was born in 1869 in the remote village of Pokrovskoye, deep in the frozen lands of Siberia. Life was harsh, and our family was poor. My father, Yefim, was a peasant, like all our neighbors. My childhood was filled with hard work, prayer, and the vast, untamed wilderness. From a young age, I was different. Some say I had a gift, others a curse. I could see things others couldn't, feel what others wouldn't. Some called me a healer, others a demon. As I grew, my spiritual experiences intensified. I left my village to wander the holy places of Russia, visiting monasteries, seeking guidance, and understanding the mystical powers I believed I possessed. My journey was long and often lonely, but it brought me closer to God, or at least that's what I told myself. In 1903, I arrived in St. Petersburg, the heart of the Russian Empire. The city was a world away from my humble beginnings, a place of luxury, power, and decadence. But it was also a city filled with desperate souls seeking answers. I quickly gained a reputation as a holy man, a healer, someone who could ease pain, both physical and spiritual. I was no monk, though many called me that, and I was no priest, though I spoke often of God. I was simply Rasputin, and my name began to spread. It wasn't long before I was introduced to the imperial court. Tsarina Alexandra was deeply religious, and when she heard of a man who could perform miracles, she sought me out. Her son, the Tsarevich Alexei, suffered from hemophilia, a condition that caused him great pain and suffering. The doctors could do nothing, but when I prayed over the boy, his bleeding stopped and his pain subsided. The Tsarina was convinced that I was sent by God to save her son, and perhaps, in a way, I was. I became a trusted advisor to the Tsarina, and through her to the Tsar, Nicholas II. They believed I had the power to heal, to see the future, to guide them through the darkest times. And indeed, these were dark times for Russia. War, famine, revolution. The empire was crumbling, and they were desperate for any hope of salvation. But my influence was not just spiritual. As I gained the trust of the royal family, I also became involved in the politics of the empire. Ministers, generals, nobles, they all sought my favor or feared my wrath. I did not seek power for its own sake, but I used it to protect the Romanovs, to try and steer Russia away from disaster. Yet, the more I tried to help, the more enemies I made. I was a man who loved power, and perhaps I let that love grow too strong. I chose who would rise and who would fall, not always for the good of Russia, but sometimes for my own benefit. Outside the palace walls, rumors spread like wildfire. They called me the mad monk, a sorcerer, a lover of the Tsarina, a man driven by lust and greed. They said I was controlling the Tsar, that I was the puppet master behind the throne. The truth was more complex. Yes, I enjoyed the pleasures of life, wine, women, song, but I also felt a deep connection to God, a calling to serve. My life was a paradox, a struggle between the flesh and the spirit. They called me a holy man, yet I was far from holy. I preached repentance, but often after indulging in the sins of the flesh. Yes, I took advantage of my position, and the women who sought my counsel, both physically and spiritually, became entangled in my web. The more influence I gained, the more stories were invented about me. My enemies, jealous nobles, disgraced ministers, spread lies, poisoning the minds of the people against me. They said I was leading Russia to ruin, that I was a threat to the empire, and so a plan was hatched to end my life. On the cold night of December 16th, 1916, I was invited to the palace of Prince Felix Yusupov, one of the richest men in Russia. He had always treated me with respect, so I suspected nothing. But that night, he offered me wine and cakes laced with cyanide. To his astonishment, the poison had no effect. Was it a miracle, perhaps? Or perhaps the poison was weak and my body strong. When the poison failed, they shot me. The first bullet struck my chest and I fell to the ground, but death did not come. I struggled to my feet, determined to live, to fight. They shot me again and again, but still I did not die. Finally, they beat me, wrapped my body in a rug, and threw me into the icy Neva River. When they found me later, my hands were frozen in a desperate attempt to claw my way out. But this time, death had claimed me. My death did not save the Romanovs. Within 2 years, the Tsar and his entire family were executed by the Bolsheviks, and the Russian Empire was no more. But my story lived on, growing larger, more twisted with each retelling. They remember me as a monster, a saint, a charlatan, and a prophet. But I was just a man who rose from the frozen plains of Siberia to the halls of the Russian court, who touched the lives of emperors and peasants alike. The power I held began to twist my mind. I saw enemies everywhere, even among those who had once been my allies. I believed that I alone could save Russia, that God had chosen me for this task. But perhaps I was just a man losing his grip on reality. I predicted doom, not because I saw it, but because I needed them to believe that they could not survive without me. I am Rasputin. I was not a saint, nor was I a demon. I was a man, capable of good and evil, of healing and harm. My story is a testament to the dangers of power and the ways in which it can corrupt even those who believe they are chosen by destiny. My life ended in violence, and in that perhaps I paid for my sins. This is my story, one of faith, power, sin, and downfall. And now, as you hear my tale, ask yourself, who was the real Rasputin?